Good evening, guys. Today is August 11th, 2020, and today we're going to be looking at how the 2020 presidential election is going to be impacted now that Joe Biden has selected Senator from California, Kamala Harris, as his presidential nominee. So, if you guys don't know, a couple hours ago, Kamala Harris was announced as Joe Biden's running mate on various platforms, and many people have already been looking at how it's going to impact the race and why she was chosen. So, quickly just going on, as you guys see on your screen, a lot of statements have already been made. This article is from FiveThirtyEight. You see here, again, she is the second woman to ever be chosen as a vice presidential nominee, first being Geraldine Ferraro in 1984. So, and she is the first Asian American and first black woman to be chosen for vice president or president. So, with that being said, again, this is for the left wing of the party, the Progressive Party, the Bernie Sanders, the Elizabeth Warren side of the wing. It's a defeat because Elizabeth Warren was on that short list of potentially being a vice presidential running mate. And although Kamala Harris is more liberal, more progressive than Joe Biden, she isn't as drastic as an Elizabeth Warren or as a Bernie Sanders. So, with that being said, that is a defeat, you could say, for the Democratic progressives. But it is a win for minorities, a win for African Americans, Asians, and people of color, really. Just because for the first time ever, a person of color has been selected as the vice presidential running mate, as the running mate of a presidential candidate. And as many people know, Joe Biden is 78 years old, and he has also has already come out and said that he is more of a bridge candidate for the older side of the party, the more moderate and liberal, to the more progressive side of the party. So definitely, with that being said, is Kamala Harris now considered the front runner for the 2024 presidential election if Joe Biden doesn't win or doesn't run? We don't know that yet. Again, there's many examples of this, like Paul Ryan in 2012, Sarah Palin in 2008, Joe Lieberman in 2000, John Edwards in 2004, and really everyone in the past presidential elections. It's the last time that a vice president was elected to president while he was serving as vice president was George H.W. Bush, which was over 30 years ago. So definitely, just because she is the running mate of the current Democratic nominee does not guarantee her to be the front runner in the 2024 election. So definitely, with that being said, the next statement is we don't know if Kamala Harris will end up hurting or helping Joe Biden in the general election. A sign of helping that you could show could be, I don't know, someone like George H.W. Bush or a Lyndon B. Johnson in 1960 when he helped JFK carry the South. But as we know, there are a lot of vice presidential candidates that end up hurting the presidential candidate. For example, Sarah Palin in 2008, many people saw her as unqualified, as unready for in case she needs to become president in an emergency. And the next statement says, we don't know if Harris will help with Biden with minority voters, specifically black voters, especially just because a lot of people have already said that they have already made their mind. And although there are a lot of Asian Americans and African Americans in key swing states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, etc., the states that are competitive in this election as they were in 2016. Also North Carolina, which they make a fourth of the population. We don't know yet if it will or won't help Joe Biden in this scenario. So, again, it is a historic moment as she is the first African American and Asian woman to be selected as the vice presidential nominee. But at the moment, we don't know whether that will or will not help her. And now I'm just going to show you some polling quickly. This was polling conducted just to see who people will recognize more and what they think of the potential shortlist of Joe Biden's vice presidential shortlist. So this was conducted before Kamala Harris was the vice presidential pick. It was conducted between July 24th to the 26th. Around 2,000 voters answered this poll. And as you see, Kamala Harris is the second person below Elizabeth Warren, and her favorability rating was only 33%. So a third of the people that answered this poll had a favorable opinion, while another third of that electorate had an unfavorable unfavorable thought of her. And so definitely her name recognition is up there. Again, she did run for president, and again, as you see, her name identification, she has a good she has good name recognition. 80% of the people, so 4 out of 5 people knew who Kamala Harris was. So as you see, only 20% of the people that answered this poll didn't know who she was, while 12 people either had no opinion, but have heard of her. So definitely a good sign, a good choice if you're just looking at name recognition. In the case of Joe Biden, again, Elizabeth Warren has a bigger name recognition. At the same time, she has a better favorability rating, but at the same time, a greater unfavorable rating. So although her name recognition was higher, in the opinion, I think, of Joe Biden and his campaign, Kamala Harris was more of the safe pick and more of the pick that would resonate with more Democrats. I'm talking about that. This final poll that I'm going to be showing you guys, it says what voters care more about, and after this poll, it was conducted between also July 24th to the 26th among those 2,000 voters, and they say that they prefer people that have legislative, executive, and other types of experience in the vice presidential candidate. Whether this be sort of as a shot to Trump, we don't know, but a lot of people, majority of the people, said that they prefer a candidate that had legislative experience, that also had executive experience, which Kamala Harris has. She was Attorney General and is Senator for California. Executive experience. Again, she was Attorney General of California. Is he younger than him? Almost the majority of voters cared about that. And again, Kamala Harris is younger than Joe Biden. And while the rest are less and less, a good amount of people still care about them. But as Joe Biden said that he wanted definitely for his running mate to be a woman, and preferably a woman of color. Currently, only around 3 out of 10 people in this poll show that they care if the running mate was a person of color. So definitely could have definitely, I believe, selecting a person of color did alter the decision that the Biden campaign took. It could have easily also been a reason why they chose Kamala Harris. So now, with that being said, moving on to how this will impact the election. So quickly, we're going to be filling out the safe states for both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And again, Kamala Harris is from the state of California. She is senator currently in that state. And a lot of these states usually already are, a lot of the home states that vice presidential candidates are from usually end up being safe states that already were decided before they had entered the race, before they were selected as vice president, as a vice presidential choice. So, with that being said, quickly we're going to be filling out the safe states and the likely states just to save some time. But yeah, so it looks similar to what our normal map would look like. 187 for Donald Trump, for Joe Biden, and 188. 188 for Joe Biden and 125 for Donald Trump. So, the reason why Kamala Harris mainly was selected was to help Joe Biden with African American vote, with Asian American vote, and with more minority voters, with more people of color, and people that might not essentially resonate with former Vice President Joe Biden. So definitely a reason why she was selected. Just starting off in the West, in states that usually are considered to be safe Democrat, Colorado and Nevada. With this pick, I think that regardless who would have been the vice presidential nominee, these states are almost gone for the president. I'll be putting them in the likely column. The state of Arizona will leave that for later. Currently, Nebraska's 2nd congressional district is in the lean column for the Republicans. The state of Virginia, I'd say, is pretty safely in in Joe Biden's column. Same thing with Minnesota. Although Minnesota was a competitive state, you could say, in 2016, the star power that Donald Trump had brought to that state, and that resonation that he brought with them, has sort of gone away from 2016, and it's coming back, and that state is coming more and more back towards the Democrats. Moving on to the state of Maine, at large, I expect this to go to the Democrats in a likely scenario where really the only congressional district that'd be up for grabs would be the second one, which at the moment I feel is in the lean category for the Democrats. Same thing with New Hampshire. Although the president did lose the state by around 1/10 of a percentage point in 2016, he isn't doing well currently, whether it mean polling and approval rating. He just overall isn't doing well in that state. Moving on to the state of Texas. Does Joe Biden have a chance in the state? Yes, but currently that is historically been a Republican state that has historically shown to have Republican roots, especially in those rural areas. So hypothetically, right now, we're going to be giving this as a tilt Republican state. Moving on to Iowa, also we'll put both Iowa and Ohio as lean Republican states. Those states are, states that could potentially be trending more and more Republican in the coming years, and could easily be be sticking with the Republicans in the future. But I feel like these are the states that she's gonna have the most impact in. She's gonna have the most impact in the Rust Belt states, the Eastern Atlantic Seaboard, and the state of Arizona. Starting off with the state of Arizona, why? Because there's a huge Hispanic population in there, and there's also a great African American population in there. Do I think Joe Biden would win that state? Currently, the polls show them neck and neck, but at the moment, I think he would carry this just as a tilt state. Definitely, I see the president also being able to win the state, so you just got to watch out for that. The state of Georgia, there's a great African American vote in this. So definitely, Kamala Harris will help Joe Biden, whether it be by a lot or by little, in the state. But currently, I would need to see more polling now that she has been announced as a running mate in Georgia, to know whether she is affecting the vote in that state greatly or not. So for the time being, I'll put Georgia as a tilt state for the president. The state of Florida currently has Joe Biden ahead by around 5 points, and for being a toss-up state, that usually prior to 2016 was decided by around 1, if not 2 points. That is pretty great. Even with the margin of error, that it would still show you Joe Biden winning. So for now, I'll be putting Florida as a lean Democratic state, putting him above that 270 needed to win. So currently now the polls do show, again, as they have, Joe Biden winning the election by around 300 electoral votes. So moving on to the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania was the state he was born in. This also has a great African American vote, especially in that Philadelphia area. So for the time being, we'll put this in the lean Democratic column. Same thing with Michigan. Michigan also has a great Democratic population in that Detroit area. And I feel like she would also do well with suburban voters. I feel like she'd be able to connect with any voters that are still a bit worried about what Biden might do in office. Not that Biden doesn't do well with suburban voters, but I feel like she'd just be able to connect with those few voters that are still unsure who to vote for. Same thing goes with Wisconsin. Although this does have a smaller African American vote and Asian American vote, the president's approval ratings are bad in that state. And polling has just shown overall that in these 3 states, Joe Biden is doing well. Moving on to North Carolina, our last state currently, polling has showed both the president leading and then the former vice president leading. But for the time being, hypothetically, I've seen a lot of polls recently show Biden gain more and more leverage in that state. So for the time being, I'll be putting this in the tilt column. So as of today, August 11th, now that Kamala Harris has been groomed to be the next, being Joe Biden's next vice presidential candidate, this would be our current map: 334 electoral votes for Joe Biden to 204 for Donald Trump. But overall, just to sum up, will she affect this race greatly? We don't know yet. But if we're just looking at how history shows us that most vice presidential candidates don't make an effect on the road on states that aren't their home state. If we look in history, 2016, Mike Pence, Indiana was already a safe state. 2012, Wisconsin with Paul Ryan, they didn't win that state. 2008, Sarah Palin, Alaska was a safe state, and you could keep going on and on and on. So we'll just have to see for the time being how whether she will or won't affect the race. But we just have to see. So with that being said, I will be wrapping up today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. You guys consider liking, leaving a comment, and with any suggestions, subscribing. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll catch you in the next one.